Let me clean the thing off a little, because that just doesn't look, yeah, that looks better. Hello, hello, hello. Okay. Ooh, that's a close. Hello, hello, hello. Hello, everyone. We are going to work on the Starshine. Let me see. Let's hit the green screen on. We'll leave it there. Okay. Close and personal. Hello, hello, everyone. We are working on the Starshine quilt pattern today. And I'm just going to get my second device set up so that I am straight.
So right when I thought Mom would start taking it easy with...
Let's see. Switch account. Let's go to this one. Cool. Okay. So we're going to work on the Starshine. I'm going to get rid of this because that's going to drive me bananas down there at the bottom. Hey, Monica. How are you? Okay. So I think I have everything set up. I am working on, and it's a little backwards, but I'll work that out. This is the Starshine pattern, and this pattern is by Sugarstone Quilts, and it is an absolutely easy pattern, so they say. So we're going to see how easy this is. There are these 3 stars, and we can either mix and match them, or we can have them as all solids. So it's totally up to you which way you want to go with this. So again, you can decide whether you want these centers, and this is a pretty big quilt. It's a baby size, so it is 48 by 48 inches, so it's a decent size, and it is like these centers are about 12.5 by 12.5. Right now, this is a free pattern. And so if you go to Sugarstone Quilts, you can actually sign up for this and then get this free pattern. So I was like, why not? So let's go ahead and make this pattern. They say that it is a beginner pattern, so this should be beginner friendly. It is made up of flying geese, and so that's what these are here. All of the points that are here, and they give you a little bit of an outline so you can see there's a star here in a box. This star connects with this star in a box, and this star here connects with this star in a box. So it's pretty decent in terms of what's being expected. And then this little box up here is a straight, just white box. So it looks easy enough to do. So let's get started. So we're going to look at the directions, and the directions tell us that we'll need at least 3 fabrics. Now, if you have scrappy fabrics, because I can look at the pattern and tell, I don't have to go with what they suggested here. If I do this fabric here, it's 1, 2, 3 colors. This is 3 colors mixed up, but I absolutely could find 6 different fabrics that complement each other, and I could use those as well for this design. So it's totally up to you the way that you want to do it. I'm going to stick with 3 colors. So I found these batiks in my stash, and I was able to cut them up according to the directions, and this is what we're going to use to start with this. So they give you all of the directions that you need in order to get started, and all of your tools, everything is there. They also tell you how much fabric you need, and absolutely for that white background, you are going to need almost 1.5 yards. Everything else is a little sketchy in terms of if you can get away with something that's cheaper. For fabric D, which is this yellow that I'm using, they said that I could use almost 1 yard of fabric, and that is because the border itself is made up of the binding, so you need extra fabric for that. If you are using regular 36-inch wide, no, 42-inch wide by the width of the fabric, for the backing, then you will need at least 3 1/8 yards. If you're using the wider 108, then you only need about 1 yard. No, a little bit more than 1 yard, because you'll need enough for at least 40 to 46 inches. So it's a little bit more, about 1 yard and I would say about 1.5 yards that you would need for that. And you would actually be able to do a couple quilts with that. So hello everyone. Hey, Mr. Will. So we are going to kind of get started with this. They do, and I think for a free pattern, which may not be free long, they do give you, so here's a great, and this is great, Mr. Will, for you, because if you decided to make a quilt, you have all of those Ankara scraps that you could absolutely use. So they give you the directions for the fabric layout for how you can set this up, and they show you how to cut everything out. So if you're like me, you're going to YOLO that cutting part and cut it out the best way you can, not read the directions, and then realize you could have cut this differently. In order to cut the flying geese, they give you directions for how to cut those flying geese. So step by step with pictures. I absolutely love that. And then once the flying geese are done, they show you how to put everything together. It's that simple. So they will tell you how to put everything together, and then that's it. So the biggest part of piecing this from the directions will be the flying geese. Everything else beyond that is showing us how to put this together, and then we will be done this quilt. There are other quilts, and again, this is reading backwards, that you can get from Sugarstone. These are purchasable patterns that you would get from them. And you can follow them on Instagram, Pinterest, and YouTube. Hi, Joan. How are you? So let's get started. And we are going to, for the sake of argument, we're going to follow the directions. Because we know that when we don't, we possibly could get something else. Okay. So we're going to have everything already put together here. By 7 by 7, so I need my 7-inch squares. Those are these. We'll save that. We'll take this, put that to the side. So these are all my 7-inch squares, and we need 4 of these. These are my width of the fabric. I'll set those aside. And this is my 18. I'll set that aside. These are my 6 1/2. These are my corners, and I'll set those aside. So they tell us to gather A first, and we need a 13 1/2-inch square, and we're going to need whatever A is, and I know this is going to be my last fabric. And this is just for placement purposes, so you would decide according to placement purposes where this would go. And let me just double check to make sure that I have my AB correct. It really doesn't matter. So these two colors are B and C. My A is my white fabric, and my D is my yellow. So my A is here. And then I am going to use, this is going to be last, so this is B and C. So let's start with the easy one. We'll start with whatever is going to be B and C. And I keep looking just because it was too much like right to remember where that is. So I have red, green, yellow. That's what I'm looking at in terms of the way that I want to set this up. Red, green, yellow. Okay. So the first thing that they tell us to do is to gather everything that we need. And then we're going to take our fabric, and these are batiks. And so because they're batiks, batiks will read almost the same on both sides. So it is important to look to see which is the dominant side, because sometimes there is one and sometimes there's not. And we're just going to draw a line from one corner to the other corner. So you can prep all of these this way or just work them one by one. That is totally up to you, how you want to get these started. Thank you for liking the live. Thank you for tapping that screen to tapping the thumbs up button to like the live. Make sure that if you are following me, you're following me, and that if you have any subscribing, I should say here, and that if you have any requests, please make sure that you send me those requests, because I have plenty of material and plenty of time. So we're just going from corner to mark that straight line, that straight diagonal. If you're a math whiz, it's like the hypotenuse. Some people will take these, if you prefer, you could absolutely fold them in half and then finger press them. If I could get it in half the way it's supposed to be. You can finger press it and find that center. So some people prefer to do that. I do prefer to draw the line. I am using a regular mechanical pencil. I'm not drawing a deep dark line, but just a really good light line, enough that I can see it. Okay. Let's set these red ones out the way for a minute. Okay, so I have all 4 of my pieces drawn with the line. I'm going to pull my fabric over, check for right size. This does read white on white. These leaves are absolutely gorgeous, and you can kind of see them. The suggestion for this is to turn this sideways on an angle, and you're going to line up in one corner, and then you're going to line up in the other corner, and you're going to overlap your squares. If you drew your line straight, it should run straight through. It would be too much like right to have pins. Okay. Then what we're going to do is pin this into place. I'll move this pin when I get to it. I just want it to stay sturdy. I could use enough pins, but that would be too much like right to get up and go over and get them. Okay, so this is going to create several flying geese at one time rather than doing them individually. So this is the method that we're going to use, and what we're going to do is, let me talk a little louder. What we are going to do is sew a 1/4 inch up one side, 1/4 inch up the other side. If you prefer, again, some people will work with what we call a scant 1/4 inch, and that means that we'll go a little closer to the line, not quite a 1/4 inch, to make sure that if our measurements are a little off, that we have some trimming down to do. Remember, these are overlapped, so I do want to pay close attention. I do try to overlap them so that the one that I'm sewing is what I'm running over last. so that it automatically will keep everything flat for the one that comes second. Okay, and you can see here is the white line that I have, and then right next to it is the drawn line. I'm going to turn this, flip it around, and do the same thing on the other side. Now when I do this time, this is going to be up. So this is not going to be the last thing. This is going to overlap first, so I do need to make sure that I take my time because the foot may want to push that piece up. So I just lift up my pressure foot, and then I keep going. Okay, so everything is stitched down. You can see the white thread. There's a line on either side of this. Okay, and then what we're going to do is take our ruler. We're going to line it back up on that line that we drew. We do not want to cut the seams. And we're going to slice that down the center. Okay. When we slice that down the center, we're going to get these two pieces and we're going to press them like that. We still have two pieces left and we're going to need those. And I love this method if I have to make a lot of flying geese. Of course, my iron probably wasn't hot, so I'll probably have to press that again when it just warms up a little bit. Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome in, welcome in. This is the night before Christmas Eve. We know that we are working feverishly to get things done. And this is a cute and easy pattern. It is supposedly very beginner friendly. And I only say supposedly because I think it's very beginner friendly, but it depends on where you are in your sewing journey. So if you're new to sewing and you're not new to terms and you just are like, that didn't work out the way it was supposed to, it might not be beginner friendly to you. But this is an easy pattern, which makes it beginner friendly. Okay. So we took this piece that was like this when we cut them in half, and we just press these open. Okay. And I am following the directions step by step because I want to make sure that if there's something that isn't right, that I'm speaking to it, and I also want to make sure I don't mess anything up. Then we take this piece and we're going to place it in those opposite corners that don't have the colors already in them. And again, you could pin on either side. I'm just pinning in the center because I like to live on the wild side. And remember, we want to make sure that that line that we drew is here. And I love this because this makes this one block is going to give us multiple flying geese all at one time. So you're not making them individually. We're going to do the same process that we did before, sewing on either side of the line at 1/4 inch. Get to my needle, excuse me, my pin, take that pin out. Come around on the other side and we'll do the same thing. Oops. Now, I must admit, I don't have a ton of babies that I need to sew things for, but I do like the baby quilts for wall hangings. I do like them for table toppers. I think that they're really good accent pieces. And if you're a fan of Ankara, like I am, then, using those scraps up can absolutely make statement pieces in several different parts of your house. So I do like them for that reason. Okay, whoops. Okay, so again, we stitched on either side of the line. We're going to take our ruler and we're going to line it up on that line that we drew. We don't want to cut our seams. We're going to cut just 2. Then we'll come here and cut the other one. And what I will do at the conclusion of the video is I'll make sure that I link sugar stones so that you can see them, and that obviously you can do whatever steps are needed in order for you to get your free pattern. Okay, so then we have a piece. We have 4 pieces that look like this. We're going to now take this and open it up, and we have our flying geese. It's important also that you notice up here that there is enough room up here. There should be about a 1/4 inch when we square it up, because otherwise, if there's less, your point is going to sink in to your seam. So we need at least a 1/4 inch here. But we're going to go ahead and press these open. It is not the end of the world. If it is not a 1/4 inch, it just means that you will have a slightly different look. But as I said in several of my other videos, the baby is not going to know. And the baby's mama or daddy or grandpapa, grandmama, auntie, they're not going to care, because they're going to be so busy looking at that cutie pie and going, oh, look at the little quilt, that they're not even going to worry. My iron is spitting. Okay. They're not even going to worry about the fact that that point sunk in. I will get that cleaned out of that. And this is what happens when you put water in your iron. And I typically don't, but I was ironing something else with it. Okay. And one more. So we're going to do the same thing with the red and with the yellow. So we will make those flying geese again. And what they will tell you to do is to trim this. And I'm going to look for the measurements to see what they tell us to trim this to. Trimming is important when you are working with certain blocks, because you do want to make sure that accuracy works for you as best as it possibly can, because it could make or break your block. So when trimming this, they tell you to trim each of the flying geese to 6.5 by 12.5, making sure that you have a 1/4 inch here. So if you're going to lose inches or lose pieces, lose it on this end, not on that end. Okay. So we need 6.5 by 12.5. My ruler, thank goodness, is 6.5 by, and I have this end, which is a 1/2, so it should go right to 12. If I can find it. Okay, so I'm looking right here to make sure that my 1/4 inch line lines up. As a matter of fact, let me turn this towards me So I want to make sure that a 1/4 inch is going to line up directly with that point, so that when I create that seam, I will have exactly what I need. And this may just take a little bit of doing, and that's okay. Because again, the more accurate that I can get that, the less likely I will be to lose that point. So we're going to cut this way, and we're going to cut that way. Okay. And then we have 10 by, it's a little bit over 12. So we're going to go, look at my measurements. And again, this is the part, right, that will drive you bananas. Let me do this way because I want to see the 12. I want to make sure I line everything up. And then I can. And again, I just want to make sure everything is straight. Looking for that 12. I want everything to line up the way that it should. I never trust myself with this. 12. So I do like from time to time to use my cutting mat as a guide, as well as the ruler. The ruler may give you one measurement, the cutting mat may give you another, but you do want to make sure that everything is kind of straight there. Okay. And I should, from 12 to 18 and a half, and then from 12 to there. So I'm going to make sure that's straight, okay? And so here is the 1 unit for the flying geese. This is 1 corner for the star. So you have 4 sides to the star, so you need 4 each. So we'll set that aside, and then we'll do the next one. Okay, the good thing again is this is a 6 and a half. And I just kind of start the first one. I'll move a little faster as I go because I'll start to get the swing of where I want everything to be. But initially, I do make sure that the first time I do this, everything lines up the way that I need. But again, remember, the most important part for me here is to make sure that I have that 1/4 inch of a gap at the point, so that when I go to line up all these points, I will see the points. They won't get buried into the seam. That's the goal. Now, I'm not going to tell you, no matter how much I try, that sometimes those don't get buried into the seam. They absolutely do. It will absolutely happen. And I'm okay with that. But as much as I can, I try to avoid it. So that's why it's important to make sure that you are measuring and paying attention to what you're measuring. And I did not cut enough off. That was 12 and a half, right? Yep, 12 and a half. Okay, so then on this end, should be 12 and a half. Okay. And like I said, it'll go much faster as you go once you get the hang of it. It's just that initial one and making sure that everything lines up that you want to make sure you take your time with. Thank you everyone for joining me. Again, I'm working on these flying geese units. I am making sure that I line up that 1/4 inch at that point for my flying geese. And then I'm cutting off the extra up at the top, 6.5 inches. And this is 6.5 by 12.5. And to be quite honest with you, I'm not as worried all the time about the wonkiness of my stars. I care more about the point. Okay. And then again, as we do the other ones, because I like to make sure that it comes out right the first time, then we fly through the other ones, because then we know what we're doing and everything works. Sometimes I don't use flying geese because these also can be half square triangles. And then you can sew the 2 half square triangles together, mirroring each other to create it. It gives you a seam down here, but you can do it that way. So this is a great method to use in place of doing those 2 half square triangles. But again, making sure that I measure. I'm looking at that point to give myself a 1/4 inch. And then I am cutting off the excess. We're making sure that we have the measurements that we're supposed to have, looking at our points again. I want this to measure 12.5 inches. So this is 6.5 by 12.5. I'm using my ruler as a guide for the 12.5, lining everything up the way that it needs to go. Again, it may take a little bit of fudging and a little bit of a steady hand to get it done, but you can absolutely get it done. Okay, so then my orange units are done. And again, here is that 1/4 inch that we're talking about, because we do 1/4 inch seams, and your point will point once that 1/4 inch is gone. If it is more than a 1/4 inch, you're going to lose that point and it's going to be a little flatter. If it's more than a 1/4 inch, you're going to get this excess in here, and you may or may not want that. Sometimes it blends in and you're not worried about it. Sometimes it doesn't blend in. Okay, so we're going to repeat the process 2 more times. Once with this color and once with this color. And again, just looking at those directions, this is what I followed. And we'll talk about what they did for that in a little bit more depth with the other 2. And you'll see that we'll have, once we finish, the 4 units. And then we'll start putting this together. Okay, so to save a little bit of time, I'm going to go ahead and mark these lines for both this one and this one, just to get those done. And then we're going to zip through these 2. And again, we'll talk about them just for anybody who came in late. And, you know, I'll go through the steps again, but we're just, you know, we'll go through both of them at the same time. So I'm taking the red and I'm using my pencil, whatever marking unit you want to use, and I'm drawing a line so that I can see that from diagonal to diagonal. There are 4 of these to go, and so I'm doing all 4. I am using batik, so because I am using a batik, it gets dyed differently than a regular quilter's cotton. This kind of gets submerged in the dye, so the fabric basically gets the same color on both sides. So sometimes it's harder to tell the right side, what we call the right side from the wrong side. And if you're looking at it and you're like, she's working the right side. No, I'm not. Well, I could be, but you know, both sides look the same, so I'm making a judgment call as to which is right and which is wrong. So I'm lining everything up so that hopefully I'm going from point to point. I don't need a heavy line. This is going to be in the seam, so I'm not worried about it showing through. I could use a regular marking pen that would erase with heat, or chalk that will erase with rubbing, or something that will erase in the wash. That's totally up to you. I can use a regular pencil. I try not to use pen because the inks can bleed, and you don't want that on your fabric. Okay, 2 more to mark. And the next part, again, we'll go through what we do. This is almost like making a half square triangle, which is what we've been working on with some of the other quilt blocks. But this time we're making what are called flying geese. And 1 more to go. I tried to keep it light today because today was a work day for me, and since it was the last day before the break for us for the winter break, we had a staff kickball game yesterday, and we had a staff basketball game today. Now, I was going to play basketball, and then it was like, girl, you crazy. So after playing kickball, I was done, because we're not going to talk about the casualty that I had. Okay, find the right side of this. And we are going to go from here to here. And we're going to go from here to here. So there's just a couple steps that we have for the flying geese, to make the flying geese. And it's going to be the same thing on the red that it is on the, for the red that it is for the yellow. The same thing that we did with the orange. You determine the number of pins that you need to use. I'm only using 2. Your pins can absolutely go on each side of the line, and then you wouldn't have to remove them. But that would be too much like right for me to get up to get 2 more pins. Okay, so again, we're going to sew a 1/4 inch on away from the line. So the line is the center, and we're going 1/4 inch on either side that we're going to stitch a line. So however you have to measure to get to your 1/4 inch from your machine, you do it. I have a 1/4 inch foot, but you're absolutely welcome to do the measurement. Again, you may have to lift your foot to keep from it pushing your fabric back. These 1/4 inches are really important because they're going to help you with that 1/4 inch that you're going to need for that point. So make sure that you're doing a 1/4 inch. And like I said, if you have to go a scant, which is a little less than a 1/4 inch, do that. Don't go greater than a 1/4 inch. So again, you have a line on either side of this. They're 1/4 inch from this line that you drew. Okay. I'm going to do both of them. So I'm going to just take this one so I can press them at the same time. Save myself the aggravation of my iron cooling down after not being in use for a couple minutes. Separate those out. And remember, we're now going to press these open so that we have what almost looks like a cat, right? So this is what we're going for. But we're going to set this aside and let's do the red one. So we can just do all the pressing at once. So we set these 2 yellows aside and we're going to go ahead and do the red. Again, our line is going to go down from corner to corner. Take the time to line everything up the way it's supposed to go. And get the second piece. I'm just using my 2 pins. Okay, and then take this back to the machine. And you'll be able to see this a little bit better because this one is darker. We're going to lift that foot. And again, that's just because of the way it's overlapped. So what we don't want to do is have that push our fabric back. Sometimes your foot won't let the fabric run underneath of it like it's supposed to. And what it will do is it will push your fabric back in the other direction and create puckers and folds. So again, you can see that line now much better for this one. Okay. So again, we're going to take this ruler, run it along that line that we drew, not on the seams that we just stitched. And we're just going to run that up. Okay, all the way through. Good, that cut. Okay, so everything is set for this. And we can now take this back to our iron. And we're going to press them. Traditionally, whenever we press to the dark. You can press them open if you like, but I'm going to press these to the dark. So I'm just pressing these with my hands, but you can see where the seams are. They're underneath the 2 dark pieces. So they're not under the light, they're under the dark. So we're pressing to the dark side. And that's because in some cases, your fabric will show through on lighter fabrics, the seams will. And if you can avoid that, you're trying to avoid it. Okay, 1 red. So right now this is 2 units, but remember by the time we finish, we're going to have 4 flying geese. And 4 flying geese will give us each corner or each side for that star. Okay. So the 2 reds have been pressed. and then we'll press the 2 yellow. Again, I'm just laying this down and I'm pressing them open first with my hands. And then I'm just using the iron to press them open. And we're just trying to press them flat. We don't have to do a lot of ironing. We did do some ironing and starching before the fabric was cut. So there shouldn't be a lot of ironing needed right about now. And I can do a lot more ironing and pressing when this is done. Okay, so these pieces are done. So we can start with the yellow, and we're going to take the yellow, we're going to add that third piece to each side. Personal preference with the number of pins that you want to use. Again, if you wanted this to be scrappy, it could be scrappy. Now you are like there's not too much of a choice here, right? When I am adding this to this side, so I could have had one color here, this would be a different color. Like they would be mixed up a little bit if I wanted those points to all be different. So I didn't have to use all yellows. I absolutely could have used one orange, one purple, one yellow, and then this would have given me an orange on this side and a yellow on this side, a yellow on this side, and a purple on that side. That would have been fine as well if you were trying to use up your scraps and you wanted a scrappier look. Okay, so again, we're going to do a 1/4 inch on both sides. Okay, turn that around and do the other side. Okay, one down, and that is again on either side. So we're going to set that out the way because I like to mix match because it doesn't matter. I'll do the red one next because they're all going to get done. So it doesn't matter. It's the order that I picked it up in. Let's do the other side. And again, this doesn't take long to do, but we're making sure that we do this correctly and just kind of going through each of the pieces as we do these. So we already did this one. That one was already pinned in place. I was wondering, like, where's that other pin? One more. So once this is finished, we will then have completed all of the flying geese, except for the fact that I need to trim them up, but we'll have all the flying geese done. And like I said, once those flying geese are done, then all we're doing at this point is assembling the quilt top, because everything else is just regular pieces that we have already cut. So if you want to talk about making a simple baby quilt for a baby in a day, here's your quilt. So I have been focusing in on doing some smaller quilts or easier quilts that can be accomplished in a short period of time. Oops. Okay. So you could see the lines. All I'm going to do, again, is just take my ruler, line this up on the line that I drew, not on my seams that I just took time to sew, and cut. This one was a little close. Woo. Okay, so that's 2. We'll get these 2 done. Make sure I'm paying a little bit more attention to that line. Okay, so the reds are cut. Let me touch my iron just to let that heat up. And we'll do the same thing with these. And then we'll be able to square these up, and then it will be time to put them together. Now again, this is going to make about, I think it was like a 48 by 48, which is a decent sized baby quilt. So again, everything was cut in half, and let's just show what that looks like if I have the actual 2 pieces the way that I should. So it looked like that, and then we just cut this in half, so we have this, and then if we open this up and press again to the dark side, this is what creates that flying geese unit. So we're going to press these open, and then we will trim them up, and then we're ready to assemble. Okay, my steam is on, but again, not worried about that. I just want these to be pressed open, trying to get them as flat as I possibly can. To steam or not to steam is the question. You'll get mixed opinions on that. That's totally up to you. I would make sure that if I steam some of the blocks, I steam all the blocks, because if there's going to be some shrinkage, at least it will happen in a more uniform style than if you use steam one side and not on the other. Hey, Shamir. Yeah, I said I would go early since I was on YouTube today. And I wasn't in my mind. I said, okay, this should be an easy quilt. And because it should be an easy quilt, because these are big blocks. So because it should be an easy quilt, in my mind, I said it shouldn't take that long to do. But what I didn't want is to be up at like 12 o'clock still working. So I said, well, let me go early, do this one, and if I finish in 2 hours, then hey, but if I don't, then at least it wouldn't take me that long. I mean, I wouldn't be up all night. Now, this is on top of the fact that really, it's not like I got to get up early in the morning. I get up when I want to get up tomorrow because I do not have to go to work. Okay. So again, here is the flying geese unit. There are some little dog-eared parts What is key is going to be make sure that I have a 1/4 inch here that I have for the seam. So I don't want to cut it off so that I'm right up against that point. I want to leave enough of the fabric so that I can capture that fabric in the seam and leave the point alone. This ruler that I have, this is my True Cut ruler. And there are a lot of them that do this, but this is a 6.5 inch ruler. Not always possible that you'll have a 6.5, but if you have one, use it. So this should be 6.5 by 6.5 by 12.5 is the direction. Again, this is a free pattern, and because it is a free pattern, that means that I do not have to worry about disclosing measurement sizes right now. And she takes the word free off of it at some point. I may have to alter the video, but right now I don't have to. So I'm lining up that point with my 1/4 inch, making sure that everything lines up. And I am trimming that up to get rid of the excess. And then everything up top. Most patterns are going to give you this excess here because they want you to be able to trim it up and get it exact and not worry about did I have enough to do something. Each side, if the whole thing is 12, if this whole thing is 12.5, half is 6.5, 6.25, the other half is 6.25. So that means that I should be able to measure from 6.25 to the point, and that lets me know how much I need to trim off each end. I didn't say that before, but let me say that now. Okay. Turn this around. I'm going to find that 6.25. This should line up exactly at 12.5. And then trim that. Okay, so after I trim that off, remember I have that 1/4 inch seam there. So 1 red done, 3 more reds to go. Okay, again, I prefer, because I keep doing it to myself, to have the point towards me because it's important to me to make sure that that point is at the 1/4 inch mark. That's what's important to me. I'm lining everything else up. Take off that excess at the bottom. Oops. And I moved it too fast. So let me line it up again because I didn't take off the excess up at the top. Oops. There we go. Move over to my 6.25. Flip it around, and I should be able to get this to 12.5. Line everything up. It should match to the 6.25 still here. And cut off that other piece. 2 down. And like I said, it goes much faster, like once you get the rhythm and once you may remember the measurements. So it's taking me a little longer to think about what I need, which is why it's taking me, I have to think. But once I get all the thinking out of the way, then I can move through this a little faster. I don't want to rush. because rushing means that I could mess up. And I don't want to mess this up. Okay. Again at my 6 1/4. Line everything up. Flip it. Find my 6 1/4. Find my 12 1/2. So I'm looking for a lot of different measurements all at the same time. And like I said, zipping through the first couple ones, it's going to take me a little bit of thinking. After that, I'm moving. So we're on the last red one. Making sure again that I'm at my 6 1/4. If I can't get it to 6 1/4, I want to get it as close as I possibly can. I don't want it so far off. If I can't get it to 6 1/4 or at my 1/4 inch, I want to get it as close as I can. I can, when I get to putting this together, if I know that one is a little shorter, what I can do is take my seam and reduce it. So instead of doing a 1/4 inch seam, I might do a scant 1/4 inch. I don't want to do a 16th because it'll be too small, but I could absolutely do a, probably get away with an 1/8. But you want to keep it as close to that 1/4 inch and then not lose that point. And sometimes when you sew it, you'll sew it and you'll lose it, and then you'll rip it out and you'll do it again if it matters to you. Okay, so my reds are done, and then we just have the yellows to finish. So 4 yellows to get done, and then we are putting these blocks together. And there are really only about 4 blocks. So this is not a lot of effort here to get all of this done. Again, making sure that I have my 1/4. That's the important part. And then I keep lifting it up. I keep doing it to myself. Everything is lined up. Take that off. Find my 6 1/4. And again, depending on how you cut and how you created those seams, it's possible that each slither is not going to look the same. You're looking at the measurements, you're not looking at the slithers. Make sure that everything lines up, and make sure that your measurements are as accurate as you possibly can get them. Okay. 3 more to go. So the only thing when thinking about putting this together was cutting out the fabric. But other than that, everything else we did online. And I really don't even think it's going to take that long to put all the blocks together to get the quilt together. Keyword is I don't think. So we're looking for those measurements. So creating the flying geese was the hardest part to this, if you will, and it really wasn't that hard. Hi Karen, how are you? We're getting our measurements right. Oops. We have one more, two more. And what I love again about this pattern, let me get it on the right side first, is that they do give you pictures. And no matter how sure of myself that I am as a quilter, I love the fact that I can look at the pictures to remind myself that I'm doing this right. And if you are a beginner, you can absolutely look at this and see step by step what you should be doing. So sometimes patterns don't have a ton of pictures. Sometimes there's not just a lot of directions, and sometimes you can get lost in what your interpretation of something is. So the more pictures, the better. Hey, Anna J, how are you? One more. Okay, we got one more. One more. Okay, let me not sing because y'all don't want to hear that. And we were talking about that earlier. They were talking about me singing, and I was like, yeah, you don't want to hear that. Know your talent, know your gift. That's what I always say. The kids asked me, they were like, are you playing basketball today? No, I am not. I said, I know what I can do and I know what I can't do. So then they got mad at us because we had the alumni come back and play against them. And yeah, they lost. We were just like, well, you know, what do you expect? We're like, well, you didn't think we were gonna. Like I told them, I said, like that episode of Martin when Gina and Pam said that women could play ball better than men. And they were like, oh, y'all women are playing? And they were like, no, we're not playing. No. And they got the women WNBA to play against them. It was like, yep, there you go. Well, we weren't doing it. No. Okay, so everything is done. And again, as a reminder to you, that 1/4 inch is needed, so it's there. So it's important to make sure that you're measuring everything up. Okay, so other than the fact that my instructions are backwards, my flying geese are all done. And so then here we are with putting this all together. So you do have to follow the layout for how this is put together. Because, yeah, you might be a little thrown off. So, you know, you want to make sure that you're following the layout. They do give you an alternative layout on page. So here are the two options. And this is what I was saying earlier. You can either mix them up, or you could leave them solid. That's up to you. So you can decide which way they're going to look. Okay, so these are my corners. This is big, like I'm too close, right? Okay. So I can, if I wanted to, take the orange and take the like look how bright that looks, right? So I could do that. So if I like not having a solid color, I can put these in there, or I can keep it solid. So it's up to you which way you want that to look. You may play around with it and lay it out first and then decide like what works. So the yellow we know is pop. So then if we take the orange, the question is do we get the same effect if we do the same thing? And I know I would, because orange is a great color to use as a sun as well. So this looks like the sun. I can take the red, and then that red would pop as well. So I could mix this up if I choose. or I can leave it solid. Okay, and then the last one, just, you know, for the sake of looking at it. And again, I didn't make any true decisions. I made a decision, but I'm not married to the decision I made. Okay, so then and so if I choose to do that, the red isn't too bad. So the red could be with the orange. So the red, those red, like having, so the question, right? And I guess Shamir is saying to color block it, like to put that there, to put this way, opposed to, I guess, you know, Shamir said it probably looks boring to then have it look that way. And again, this is going around all edges, but I'm just showing you like from the two, what we can do. So we can put them all, but again, like this is the decision that you're making from page 12, wherever page 12 is, from page 12, because page 12 is showing it to you both ways. Some colors may not play well together, other colors do. So you're making that decision which way you want them to go. And I am not listening to Shamir, no. So you can make that decision. So now you have to like figure out like what that layout looks like. And the great thing about this is that they will give you like what they think the order should be for it. So they're going to show you what this should look like and how basically those pieces get constructed. You'll see it a little bit more here. And then almost like puzzle pieces. And then they'll start to put them together. So you'll see how they come, like that side, the two sides, the side and the bottom go together. Certain stars go together. So they're showing you step by step how to put it together. So that's, like I said, 14 pages of instructions helps you to figure out how to put everything together versus just saying, hey, here, do it. Karen said, I like the red and the orange. I don't know. It's like, no. So she's saying she likes that red and that orange together. So we could do the red and the orange. We could do the yellow with the red. So then the red with the orange would look like that. The yellow. You know, because, you know, sometimes oh, no, it wouldn't be the yellow with the red. It would be the yellow with the orange. And then okay, so then it would be the yellow and the orange. And then it would be the red with the yellow. So if we were going with what sounds like the popular vote, then that's what it would kind of look like for those pieces. These pieces would go in different spaces, but those are the colorways that we'd be looking at. I like the red. Oh, that's the same thing. Okay. But again, we're looking at how they're constructing this. Was that the page I was looking at? Because they look like they're already together. Page 7. Where's 8? 8 is before 9. Okay. So they're showing us now, we can see these pieces are all going to go together. These pieces are going to go together. You're going to make this whole star here. You're going to make this piece of the star here. So this is going to be like a 4 patch here. This is going to be more like, this is going to be constructed like a 9 patch. So you're going to put all those pieces together. Then these two pieces are going to go together, and then they're showing you with the arrows how the pieces are going to go together here. And then they'll show you on the next page what you need to do. Okay, so if we start with the red up at the top, let's take this and move that out the way for a minute. So if we start with the red up at the top, we need my white squares, and I need 4 of these. 1, 2, 3, 4. We are going to put the entire red star with the yellow points together. So I am going to flip all of these and just move them out the way. Just so I remember, because tell me who can mess something up. Her name is Jennifer. So we will pull all these out the way, as we made our executive decision. We are going to take these, and they're going to sit in the corner. And even though these are not going to be in focus, I have another piece over here. I'm going to take my other little piece here. We're going to move these out the way. Thank you for showing the different color combinations. Sometimes I have trouble with color. How do you get your the pattern? It's called Starshine, and it's backwards, right? So bear with me. It's Starshine, and it is found at Sugar Stone Quilts, and you can get the free pattern from them. And again, you can do it either this way or you can do it this way. That's totally up to you. Okay, so I need this, and then these will all go together. So I am going to get my sections together, because I know how I'm putting it together. Bring my machine over, and it is time to put the first 2 sections together. And again, we're building the whole star for that first star. Everything was measured out. So I'm using a block, and I'm using a solid block with this, with the flying geese. Everything was measured at 6.5. So everything should line up perfect. 1/4-inch seam. Okay. Then I am going to take this, and this is going to get this side. This should line up because we did 12.5 inches, and the block is 12.5 inches. Okay, and then the last one is going to be a repeat. And we're going to put those together. And again, if I did my measurements correctly, it should be 6.5. So as long as your measurements are right, and that's why it's important for you to block it or to trim it as you go, because you want to make sure that everything lines up nice and neatly. The more that it lines up, the better your block. We're adding a solid block to the other side. And I'll show you that. I'll show you each unit. So we're putting the sub blocks and the blocks together, but we are constructing the quilt at the same time. This center is going to have this on each side. Oops, here it is here. You do need to make sure that that everything is pointed in the direction that you're supposed to have it in, because ask me who can absolutely sit there and get it in the wrong direction. It would be me. Not paying attention. You can clip or pin if you choose. You will find that if pieces are small enough, I don't do it. I do keep my points up because when I run over the point, I want to see at what point I'm going to hit that point and see if I'm going to be burying that point in the seam. If I am, I'm going in and I'm fixing it. And I didn't do one square. Okay. So we have this. So this is the center. We have this. This is the top. And somewhere in here I had another square that I don't see, and I didn't do this side. And then we'll do some pressing. And again, you're going to make a decision. Do you want to stay with pressing to one side, or do you want to open up your seams? That's a personal preference. Again, you can mix the two if you like. It's up to you. And I will show you. If I take this and I press this way, then this seam here and this edge of the seam that is in the edge of the fabric that is in the seam is going to bulk on me. And that means that it's going to be much thicker, because now I have 1, 2, 3 layers here, and I have the 3 layers here, and they're all laying on top of each other, and I may not want that bulk. To reduce it, I could open the seam, which takes away 1 layer, that white, and it'll reduce it by a little, or I can press everything to the white side, and then that means that I don't have as much bulk. The thing about this is, though, when you press to the white side, that means that, especially if I put more fabric underneath of this, you're going to see the dark, it's going to get a little darker right here, so you'll see that seam shine through. If it doesn't matter to you, then work it. If it matters to you, then you either compromise the seam and see it here, or you have the bulk. That's up to you. So you can decide if you want to press this way, press out, do you want to press in? That's a personal preference. I'm going to go ahead and press this way. So I'm going to press out toward the white. Then what I'm going to do for this one is I'm going to press in towards the red. Okay? And what that's going to do is help me to lock those seams. So I prefer to lock them, but again, it's personal preference which you prefer to do. So I can lay these out. The same thing is going to happen for both the top and the bottom. Give it a little bit of heat there. I'm going to turn these over, because now the seams are going in the directions that I want them to go in. And then I am just going to press it so that they lay a little flatter. Again, it doesn't have to be perfect, because we'll take it and give it a good press at the end. Where's the other one at? Okay, we'll pull this one off. These are going to be, again, these are some big blocks. These big blocks, and you can also do it this way. Press and press. So either way is fine. Okay, that got a little hot. Either way is fine. Okay, so they're going pressing out to the white. And then these are going to get, the center is going to get pressed in towards the red. And I'm just going to press this way to start, but I'm just going to press it this way. That's going to help it lay it flat. But again, how you choose to do it is totally up to you. Okay, flip this over. And what happens is sometimes when you're doing this, you get folds in the fabric. So that's why I press it on both sides. Because if there's any chance of a fold, especially at the seam where they're going to connect, I want to make sure I get those out because I want this to lay as flat as possible when I go to quilting. Okay. So we're going to finish this first block. And then we have like 2 more blocks to go. And again, like I said, we'll be finished. Okay, so we're going to attach the top and the bottom. When I pull out my clips, I'm going to match my seams up. Remember, these are going to go this way. They're going toward the white. This is going towards the red. So this is what we call lining the seams up. And what happens is, because that bulk is going in either direction, when I put these together, they're going to want to lock in, or what we call nest. And I'm going to clip it right there. And I'm going to come to the other side, and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to line those seams up. I like to use my fingers just to kind of nudge it a little bit, and they're going to nest. That bulk is going to line right up. It's going to nest. I'm going to put these together, and then I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Laying these together. They should line up if all my seams are right and all my measurements are right. I'm going to take the seams. I'm going to line those seams up all the way up. Then I can just, I'm not moving the fabric, I'm just kind of nudging it a little bit with my fingers, and I can clip. Taking those seams, line them all the way up. Give it a little nudge with my fingers. If everything lines up the way it should, you don't see a whole lot of bubbling. This should lay flat. I'm going to clip that right there in the center. Okay, on both sides, and we will have 1 star finished. Remember, we only have 3, and some of those stars are partial stars. I am doing a back stitch. Sometimes when I remember, I do it. It is not the end of the world, not the back stitch. We're going to go under, move that foot up, make sure that we're not getting that point caught up in the seam. And even though I do this, I still get it caught up. Okay, and here's the end. Did I do both sides? No. Forgot that fast. Okay, now let's go on the other side. Thank you for clicking the like. Take your time when you're getting to those seams. You want to make sure they don't push back on you, because they will help to twist the seam, and it's not the end of the world. It just creates a little bit more bulk that you don't need. So you want those seams to lay as flat as you can, and you just take your time going over them. Now, other than pressing, that block is done. So the block is done. We just need to press it to get everything nice and straight. You'll see how those points are not going into the seam. There are some places where I may have made that a little bit more than a 1/4 inch, but I'd rather have a little bit more and it still makes a point than for it to sink in. Let me get it like that. And it looks like that. I don't like that look. I like a good point. I also want to make sure that when I square these up, I have 1/4 inches out here as well, because that's going to make a difference when I don't want to lose these points either. Oh, wow. I thought about getting an animal, and that just like scares me to think about pins with the animal, because I'm forever dropping them like I drop my clips. But at the same time, yeah, like I know that plenty of people have the animals, and they, you know, they don't have these like death-defying stories, but I don't know. So absolutely, I could see using those clips to avoid that for my poor pet. Okay. And again, I'm just pressing the seams out, but you can press them whichever way you want them to go. Okay. And again, I can close it if I choose. We're just flattening out the seam and the thread, and then we're opening it in the direction that we want that to close in. Sometimes our thread comes on our side. Just clip that off. If I don't capture it when I am piecing, I will absolutely capture it when I'm quilting or pressing. Like when I take it to my big iron, I'll find all kinds of stray threads. If everything is lined up, you should have really great points. So you can see there, that's like a really great point. And that's why it's important to kind of take your time through this process. Okay, so we have this one piece done. And we will throw this over to the side. So that is this piece. So this piece is done. We have this piece out here that we need to do. This is already done for us. We have these groups that need to be done over here. So we're going to decide that next group that we need to do. So I can do, like they have them listed as A, B, C, D. Clearly, you see I didn't go in that order. So A is to get a long strip, whatever color is going to be down here, a piece of that, and then a small side. So let me see. Let me pull. Let me pull my red. I'm gonna take my orange and throw it over to the side. We're gonna do the red. And the red went with the yellow. No, the red went with the orange. Okay. So I am gonna set this up the way that I should have it, just because my mind needs to see it a certain way. I need 2 white pieces. One is going to go in the corner. Nope. One is going to go in that corner. One is going to go down here. And this is going to get turned in the right direction before you mess up. And then you need a long piece. Put that down there. Okay, so unit A is a short piece to one side, the long piece to the other side. So this won't be a star, this is just going to be the side. And you figure, minus running my mouth, we started at 6. No, we started at 7. We started at 7. So we started at 7, and we're about an hour and a half in. So this is not a hard quilt to finish. We're going to attach this end on. And so this is that side. It's telling me that I need to have this long piece, then I need to have that side, and then that small piece. So we'll press that in a minute. So we'll set that over to the side. Group B is another red piece with the other long piece. We'll make sure that my red piece is in the right direction, which is not. And we'll attach the long piece to this side. So I'm just, and I'll show you again like what that looks like. Alright. So I made the star. We finished this. We are now over here. This was A. So I did the long piece, this piece, and then this piece. Now I'm running this piece and this piece. So that was B. And then this was C, D, and that was the next piece, right? That was that. Because we didn't follow directions. We went straight to the star. Now it's telling us to group a flying geese with a 6.5 and the orange square with that other red. So it's telling us now that we need to do this and this and this and this. Okay, so all those are done. I'm gonna press those in a minute. I have my orange and I need 2 more reds. So simple enough, I'm just following the diagram for what they have. And I can actually even go to the next page. Nope, I gotta get them all together first. And then once I get them together, I can go to the next page. So this piece needs to go this way. This piece has to go this way. And then they're telling me to attach this to this side. And we'll press all of those the way that they need to go as soon as I finish this. Okay. And then these two go together like that. And again, it's important to pay attention to the directions that they go in, because you don't want to seam rip if you don't have to. So all of my red pieces in the red section are together, but I'm gonna go ahead. I don't need the, ooh, that's a big piece, 18 by 18. So This piece here is already together. They're telling us to put an orange with a 6.5. They're telling us to put these two together, these two together, and these two together. Now, did they tell me to do something that I went ahead and did and wasn't supposed to do? Nope. Okay, good. See what's happening so you don't read. Great. I wasn't supposed to put that star all together, but I'm good. That's because I went ahead and read the directions and wasn't paying attention to what I read. Okay. So I need these last pieces here. I'm going to take my orange. I'm paying attention to my picture because I want to make sure these go in the right direction. I'm going to attach the orange to the small white. And then I want to attach this to a small white. And I'm just paying attention to direction. Okay, I have two more. Oh, okay. I'm about to say, did I mess up? I'm going to take my yellow and attach that to an orange. And remember, everything is lining up nice and neatly because I took the time to square everything up. Okay, and then we have one more. And we're going to make sure this is in the right direction. Did I cut too many of these? I probably did, knowing me. Okay. And then this will go here. Probably cut one more than I had to. Okay. And cut, and cut. Okay. So we paid attention. We paid attention to everything and the way that they told us to cut it. What they did was they gave little plus signs, so they told you what needed to be added together. So now we should have this piece. Like I said, I put all these together and they told us to do this because I went ahead and did that. Then they're telling us to add this to this, add these to these, and to make sure that you're adding all of this. Yeah, that you're adding all of that. So that's the next part. So we're gonna press and then we're gonna add those together. So let's take all of these, and we're iron over, and we're gonna do some pressing. It is not the end of the world if you don't press. I will say that if you don't, sometimes just like when you're making garments, things don't always line up the way that you want them to when you don't do the pressing, or it doesn't give you a crisp look at the end. So I have seen people who quilt who don't press until the end, and they turn, and their quilts turn out beautiful. It's not the end of the world. But you know, I prefer to press as I go. So you will find people that do not press. You'll find people who use steam. You'll find people who they don't use steam. It isn't, it's your quilt. It's your quilt, it's your masterpiece, it's the way you want it to go. But I will say that just know what the rules of the game are if you use those things that some people tell you not to use. So if somebody tells you not to use steam, understand that cotton will sometimes shrink, will shrivel up. The threads will get tighter with the steam, excuse me. And so you might lose a little bit of inches or a little bit of a 1/4 inch if you do that. So it might make it just a tad bit smaller. And you may be able to pull it out a little bit and not even see the difference. And sometimes it makes all the difference in the world. So sometimes when you're taking pre-cuts and you starch them, or if you wet them, you'll notice that maybe it was 10 inches and now it is 9 3/4. And it shouldn't be that far off, but sometimes it is. I'm following the guidance of what I said I was going to do with the first block. So I said I was going to press, and I pressed that in the wrong direction. I said I was going to press toward the center. So that's what I'm doing for all the blocks. Just to have it be uniform. But again, you could press these open or however you like. I just want to make sure that I get some of those humps and bumps out. Oops. So I'm pressing toward the white for this one. Let's open it up and just give it a good press and then press it. Okay, and there are a lot of written directions if you're a reader, which is what I love about this pattern, and there's a lot of pictures if you don't want to read. And I told y'all, and I keep saying, all the reading that I did for that dissertation, if I don't have to read, I don't want to read. Okay. So I do prefer to press, and I am going through the steps of pressing. Okay. Just to get those as flat as I can. Okay. Let's move that iron over to the side. Okay. And then we're going to now follow the directions. We already did the star. We know that this piece is already done. So we don't need that. I'm going to set that in my lap. Is this the other one? This is already done. This long piece. So we're going to set that in my lap. I don't need it. This piece is going to get this piece. So these two are going to go together. And then I'm going to add one of the orange pieces that has the direction that I want it to go in. Okay, which might be that one. Okay. So we're going to nest these again. Nest the seams. We're going to clip. We don't have a seam on this side to nest, so we're just going to clip it closed. And we'll clip it here just to get it straight. And then we'll take it to the machine. Just really, really trying to make sure that everything lays flat and straight. Okay, so that one's done. I have one more piece to add to that. I'm going to take my big block, because I can, and there are two pieces that are alike, and then there is one that should be different. So these two are alike. Let's pray that, nope. 1, 2, did I do them all the same? Because I wasn't paying attention? Yep. Okay. So I'm going to have to rip out one of these. Okay, that's cool. So set this off to the side for a second, because I just need to make sure that I didn't lose my mind. 1, 2, 3. Okay, so this one gets this piece. Because sometimes I will say that I messed something up and then I didn't. So let's put everything else together, and then we'll just double check to make sure that that unit isn't right and I'm just looking at it wrong. But if not, only one made, I don't know what I was looking at, but I only messed one up. I only goofed up one direction. I won't say I messed up. Okay, make sure that's under there. And I think I want to do this again and do it with the African print. So I think. Let me slide that one out the way. Okay, so this is going to go like this, and then you're going to add this onto it, but I want to press this first. So I'm going to take this over here and just press this real quick. And what that will do is it will allow me okay, make sure I got it in the right direction. Okay, so this looks like this. Let me show you this one. Okay, and what they're telling me to do is to now take this point and attach it right here. There are no seams that match up, so I don't have to worry about matching seams. Thank goodness. So I should be able, if this is all the same length, hope and pray that it will. Okay, great. So it's the same length. I'm going to clip on one end, clip on the other end, clipping at each of the seams. And then I'm going to attach this. So my star will be together. My ends are in my laps. My bottom and my side are in my lap. I did the other piece that I need to press open. Did I do? Yeah, I did that right. I am big on batik. I have a ton of batik. A ton. And so it's always easy for me to get batiks. I love color for batik. I love bright colors, as you can tell. So the orange and the yellow are both bright. Oops. Didn't mean to do that. We're pressing that out nice and flat. And I think I'll probably even pull that camera back a little bit. So this unit is done. I'm going to double check my picture to make sure everything is straight. So my top unit is done. That bottom unit is done. This part is done. And I just need to rip out that one piece and redo it because I messed that up. Okay. And then I should be able to put even more of these units together. And what I'll do is back up the camera a little bit so that you can see the whole thing. And that means I gotta walk around to do that because, yeah. Okay, cool. So again, paying attention to where this is, I see it exactly where I need to see it, so I can set this off to the side. And you can see those blocks are getting big. Okay. Now, there's nothing that I need to do to that because it is what it is. This was supposed to go like this with this on, with the white on this side. So we are going to take this out. And then we're going to put it on the other side, press it, and then we'll attach that and that will be done. So of all of the things that so far that I had to seam rip, if this is it, I will take it because I could absolutely have to seam rip a lot more in the process. And there's nothing worse than having a flying geese that you have to seam rip. Because sometimes you're just going to have to make it again, especially after you squared it up. So there's nothing worse than squaring up something and then having to seam rip it, because then you really have to pay attention to size and the seams and making sure that all that is straight, because you can't go back in and fix it as easily as you would if it were before it was squared up. Okay, so we're going to put this on this side because that's where it belonged. We'll stitch this, we'll press this, we'll add this to that square, and then that'll be fixed. So that was an easy rip. Okay. And again, we'll take that back to our iron. We can press that very easily because it wasn't that big of a deal. Now, tell me, did I, wait a minute. Am I crazy? Okay. I thought I did the same thing twice. Okay. So the points are going towards this. I wanted the points to go away from this. They're going towards it. Okay. Let me check something for a minute because that looks off. 18 and a half. This is a little greater than 18 and a half. And I don't like that. I don't want to lose it on this. I'll lose it on that. I don't know what. Okay. It'll go to 18. I know my block is 18 and a half. And for some reason, this is a little off. Okay, and if I get this here now, this should line up. Don't ask me how. I can't tell you. The block is a little bit bigger than it's supposed to be, but that's okay. We're gonna make it work. Okay. And then this is going to open up like that. Did I do that right? I did not. I did this the same way that I just said that I wasn't supposed to do it. And I did that when I fixed the block. Okay. This is what happens when you start to get delirious. And so traditionally, I would not do a whole quilt in one sitting. And sometimes I would take a water break or some other sort of break. And I absolutely did. I mean, that's my fault. I absolutely was not paying attention after I squared that up. And then I did the same exact thing that I said I wasn't supposed to do. But that's fine. Because again, I didn't make a major mistake. So that's my second time seam ripping. And that's okay. Because I can seam rip more than that in a setting. So if I'm only seam ripping now for the second time, I consider myself ahead of the game. Okay, let me get that out. Cool beans. Okay. Now, if I were doing this any other time, it would take me until Christmas to take all this out. But for whatever reason, it wants to come out relatively quickly tonight. Okay, we're gonna try this again. Your points are going to go towards the square, not towards the other block. Okay. Let's clip it so you don't forget and mess it up for the third time, because you can do that. And yes, I'm talking to myself, but that's okay. Okay, so we're gonna get this under here. And this time it's right. So if the beginner is paying attention, the beginner should not have the same problems. But sometimes it's easier to say, yeah, I did that on purpose, so then that way you can see that mistakes happen. But we know that I just goofed that up. Okay. So we're gonna take this over here and we're gonna press. Okay, open that up. And we are, where are we at? 9:07. So we are almost finished and 2 hours and 7 minutes in. Thank you for those of you who have been hanging out with me. I am gonna press that. Okay. So that one's done. I'm gonna move that over here. I'm gonna take these two out of my lap. I'm gonna get up for a second and adjust the camera. That'll give me a chance after 2 hours just to kind of stand and move my legs. And I'm gonna slide this back. And of course it's not gonna come because I have like a bazillion other tripods in here. Okay. Let me add that up there a little bit and I'll fix it on the front end. Okay, I knew that was going in a different direction and I can't reach all the way across that table. And cool. I think that'll work. Okay. So here we go. So we have now put all these together. And again, this is Starshine, and this is by Sugarstone Quilts. You already said it wrong. Okay. So we have now this piece, this piece, this piece, this piece, and these two side pieces. So they're telling us to join these two pieces together, these two pieces together, and then we're going to add those two pieces. So this is this piece. And I have the full one, right? And we have this piece. I'm going to turn this in the direction it's supposed to be in. And then we're going to put these two together. And everything should line up. I'm going to start out at the corners and clip. And I only see one seam that should line up. I'm going to make sure that that lines up and clip that. And then I'll just randomly clip in here just to kind of keep everything even. And we'll take this to the machine. We're going to stitch those two together. Because I'm a little bit delirious, I'm going to open it up and make sure that that looks the way it's supposed to look. Yes. Okay. Oops. Get that thread there. Jennifer is almost out of bobbin. And I think Jennifer has another bobbin wound. Jennifer should have another bobbin wound. Ask Jennifer. Jennifer really has it. That's a whole different story. Okay. And these colors can be, so you could absolutely have like colors that were all the same. So you could make these like all blues and different shades of blue, all different shades of purple. Okay. So we'll press that, but that's all together. So we're going to set this over to the side to press that. And we need to do the bottom. Oh, thank goodness. Okay, so we have this piece here. And we have this piece here. And these go together. And again, I have these two now that'll be together in the two strips, and then we'll be done. Okay, and I will angle the camera out So you can see the whole thing, because again, at almost 50 inches square, okay, I'm gonna go up under here. Now, I know the one tomorrow, I don't know. I'm starting that one at 6 o'clock, and that'll be a table runner. Okay, what's that noise? Something's happening outside. Hopefully it's not anything that has to do with me. Cool beans. Okay, and so this one's together. Okay. So we're gonna set that over to the side. And then those two go together with the bottom. Okay. So we're going to take these and we're going to press them, because then we're going to put these two together, then the bottom, and then the side. And then the whole quilt top will be done. Okay. I'm going to press that to the center. Sometimes when I press to the center, I press other stuff out of whack. And I'll just set that seam back so it's not rolling. And then we'll turn this over and we'll capture that so that this lays flat. If it doesn't lay flat for some reason, you can always add a little bit of spray starch, but you really shouldn't have to add much. And remember, the more moisture you add to cotton, the more likely it is to shrink up on you. But the good thing is that the majority of this is pieced together. So you shouldn't have too much of a problem with shrinkage where it will matter. So, but I do want to lay this as flat as I can. So that's one. This is going to take a little bit of doing in terms of pinning it, clipping it together, and that's okay. Again, you can make decisions on whether you want to open those seams up or close them. You do not have to follow my method. It's what feels good to you. Because there's so much background that's white, the seams are going to show on one side or on the other. They're just going to show. So in some cases it's unavoidable. So it's not like you're going to be able to avoid it completely. I might want to make sure that darker fabric, as best as I can, goes to the darker side, because it will really show much brighter on white fabric than the white fabric shows up. Okay. Cool. So we have this one done, and we have this one done, and we should be able to put these together. And I'll show it to you. So we are here. So we're putting this top to this bottom, and then the third piece will be to add this. We'll press 1, 2 seams, and then we'll add that piece on. And then the whole quilt top will be done. And it's not a big quilt top, so it won't take much time to do a seam, 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 seam. Okay. I do want to measure it from end to end. So I'm here all the way to here to make sure that none of my seams are way off. And what I mean by that is I shouldn't have any gaps. If I do, I may be way off. I'm going to try to match up my seams where they need to match up. Nest them by nudging them with my finger as best as I can. Okay, and clip. And then we'll do the same thing here. And clip. And we'll get one right here. We'll do another seam right here. And clip. And clip. Okay, so it's all clipped all the way down, and we'll take it back to our machine, and we will make sure that we have enough thread in there, which it looks like we do in the bobbin. Okay. It came out of the needle. And we'll thread that back in the needle. Okay. Okay, cool beans there. Good, 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 good. I have to make sure that things do what they're supposed to do. Okay. This is down at the bottom, and we need the one that does not have an edge on it. This is the longer one. And it goes like this. So the one end does not have any seams to match up. So we're going to go right to this side to match these seams. Lock those in. And we'll get this down this end. Check my, yeah, enough there. I should be able to make it with that bobbin. This is when you live dangerously. Okay, and then we could have used clips, but I'm just going to okay. So then the three sides are together. The three tops, top, bottom, and the middle are together. We press this, we add the side, and we're done. So then the quilt top will be together. Okay. So it's coming together, making that star. And it didn't look like that. When I was looking at it, I was like, how is this going to come together? But again, the directions are so easy, and I would love to try like another pattern, because if the directions are as easy as these are, this is going to be a charm. Because again, to take the time, like some people don't, and you don't have to print the whole pattern out, right? So you absolutely could just look at the directions on your computer or on your tablet, and you could follow it that way. Sometimes I prefer to print out my patterns, but you absolutely don't have to. You can absolutely look at them digitally, and I have quite a few patterns that I do look at digitally. I don't print them out, because if I can figure them out and I don't have to print out a million pages, if I'm pattern testing, then I will absolutely print out the pages, because then I'm writing notes. Like, I thought that was necessary. I didn't think this was necessary. Great point. Love how you did that. You know, I do want to give the proper feedback to the person who created the pattern, so that, you know, they know how to adjust it, or they know what's important to keep or not keep. Like, is this too much, right? And you don't know until you get into it and you're actually reading the directions. So a lot of times I will pay attention to the directions. And sometimes, if depending on what I'm working on, I will absolutely wing it. So putting the layout of this together, I would follow the directions. Making the flying geese, because I've done that before, I could wing it. So it just depends on where you are in the process. For what you think you need to do. Okay. So we have everything together except for this one side for these points. So again, looking at these directions, they said to attach all three of these, which is what I just did. So we can take that page and set it off to the side. And then what they're telling us now is to add this piece, and then this is done. And I'm on page 11, and we know that page 12 just shows us the options. It gives some quilt binding tips. It gives, you know, who the people were that made the pattern design, the pattern and design, designer and quilter. And I'm not going, Nawu. They had a tech editor, pattern tester, long arm quilter, and a print designer. So like all those people are listed here. and then they give their information about additional quilts, and some additional information about Sugarstone, and then how to follow them, and some information about the quilt and the designer. Okay, so that's all that's left in those directions. So let's get this last piece on. Okay, and again, this has just this star point, and it has the long end, so there's not much that we need to do in terms of matching points except for where the star meets. Okay. Okay. Now it would be nice if I learned this in a reasonable amount of time, and maybe that will happen over this holiday break. But if you saw how many quilts that I needed to do that to, it would be like, okay, we'll wait until you get that done, Jennifer, because we don't believe you. Okay, cool beans. Okay, so the last side goes together, and again, you would have to do the quilting for this, basting everything together before you would add the binding. I am not going to use one of the colors in the quilt. I have another piece of fabric that I can use for the binding, so I am using that once I determine what's going to go on the back. Okay, I like this quilt. I learned to maintain my point, and I learned, oh, okay, that's what I'm talking about. I do. I think this was, like I said, this was really beginner friendly, minus my faux pas, and talking, and just, you know, taking the time to move through this. I could have finished this in 2 hours. I easily could have finished this in 2 hours. And again, like you'll see, some of my points didn't make it. And like I said, if it mattered that much to me, I would go back in and fix it. But it didn't matter that much when I saw them. And it will absolutely stay the way that it is. Because again, the baby is not going to say, your points, you lost your points. And when they take pictures with the baby, they're just going to say, Auntie Jennifer made this. Miss Jennifer made this. They're going to be like, oh, this is so cute. The last thing that they're going to worry about is a point. And once you quilt it, it really kind of disappears as well. Especially after you quilt it and wash it. We're coming down to that last seam. Again, thank you everyone who kind of hung out with me for this live. I appreciate you. Because I am getting used to hanging out in YouTube world. Because you know that I avoid that with, because I use my little platform that I use. But I am learning to live in this YouTube world. Okay, let's press this one side. I will, whoa, that looks jackety over there. And we will switch this up. So I'm just pressing this, I'm pressing the seam flat and pressing it open. What I also like about this quilt, if you didn't notice by the person's name or by the, if you didn't notice by the name or by the card fabric on the front, this is a quilt by a person of color. And so I will probably run this back next month as well. And maybe that's when I'll use the Ankara fabric and use some scraps, maybe. So I do try to highlight African American, African quilters. Sometimes they don't always show up in this space or aren't always seen in the space. And I'm always recognizing all quilters, but I do also like to give highlight to African American quilters. I like to give highlight to quilters who also are, thank you, Karen. I will also use quilters that, you know, take time to share their talent with us, and they don't charge us for it. Okay, let me move my Christmas decorations out of the way. Because they are nice and hung. We are going to figure out where the top is for this quilt. Okay, there's the top. Now, is this gonna stretch? Nope. Okay. So I'm gonna hang this up, but again, while I'm hanging this up to show it to you, I wanna thank everybody for hanging out and waiting for the final result for the quilt top. We know that it is a rare occasion, if at all ever, that we will finish an entire quilt. We could do a quilted piece, which is usually like a table runner, table topper, but not necessarily a quilt in a couple of hours. Then you have to quilt this thing, and you gotta baste it, and then you have to bind it. So at least we want to get the quilt top done. Okay. And we're going to shift some things out of the way. Let me see. Let me move my phone. And I am going to pull the plug out of this. And I am going to take you on a journey. Okay. Oh, did I? Okay. That would be nice if I angled this up. There we go. And you can see the finished quilt. So we have all of our stars that are there. Again, these are 12.5 by 12.5 inch blocks. So you could either have had red, yellow, thank you, and then the orange, or you could have blocked them like this. You absolutely could use more colors. So if you're thinking about even more colors of the rainbow in there, you could have had green and purple, blue and pink. Like you could have gone, each point could have been a different color. You could have had different colors in each one. Like there's just a variety of ways. These all could have been prints. So like with the Ankara, we could have gone with a focal Ankara here, points that all could have been the same all the way around. This is meant to be a blank block right here. So this is meant to be blank. That's just the way that they designed it. But here's the thing. If you're making this into a baby quilt and you have an embroidery machine, I might suggest that the baby's name could go here with the month, their, or their birth date. You could put their weight. You could put the baby's name in here. You could, it could be Jennifer G. Hale, right? It could be her weight, her birth date. Like you could think about how to incorporate different things into those spaces so that you could use up this if this is bothering you that this is blank. This doesn't bother me that this is blank, but again, if you're using this as a baby quilt, this is a decent sized baby quilt. This is a decent size. So again, this is about 48.5 by 48.5 square. So this is a great size for a baby that you could absolutely use. So thank you, thank you, thank you. I appreciate you. And again, like I love it, I would take it upstairs to my machine, up to my big ironing board and give it a really good press. Get some of these other little wrinkles out that I have. But again, pressing as you go gives you this great like flat look. So you can see how awesome that looks. You don't see a lot of waves in there. It's not waving away from the wall. So, it's perfect. It's really greatly straight. And I love that. There are places where I miss the point, but again, it's not so noticeable that it matters. So there are places where I might have an issue, but like people will tell you, it's not hanging in the show. So since it's not hanging in the show, we're not worried about somebody judging that. This looks absolutely perfect the way that it is. So I want to thank everybody for helping me, Karen Shamir, for helping me to look at this and to say, that I feel like I, should have mixed it up versus leaving it straight. Thank you so much for hanging out with me today. But here is the final result. And stay tuned because we'll be doing additional quilts. I appreciate everyone. Thank you for liking the live. Thank you for following me, and I'll see you soon.